Okay, so now we've finished with episode 5. Let's move on to episode 6. Episode 6 is going to be all about how we're actually going to put this into place in the classroom. I told you that, hey, now it's time to move into the classroom. Really, everything we've done to this point has all been Domain 1 stuff. It's all been prep and plan. Now, it's all good stuff because if you put that time in on the head end, then as we move forward, everything else on the tail end gets a lot more fun and a lot more flexible. So if we go back, let's go back very quickly to our board and book example. Board and book example means we spend most of the class talking at the students in a lecture format, taking care of issues as they come up, and then eventually near the end of the class, the kids may have a few minutes to work on homework. They're sent home with homework, and they do some problems and some exercises, etc. Now, this is math class, which is going to be a little bit different than social science or science or some of these others, but in all situations, there should be a practice component to a class. There should always be an out-of-class component to a class, because if you're assuming that you can get all the information and all the reflection and all the growth and all the application and all the synthesis all within 45-minute period, regardless of what topic or area you teach, I'm sorry, I'm going to disagree with you, because the reality is, for people to truly learn things, they need to see it over and over and over. And the more places you can connect that information in, the more likely it's going to be to stick, it's going to be to internalize, it's going to be synthesized, and eventually applied. So what we want to do is, whether it's an old board and book where the practice goes home and that's the idea of putting it somewhere else, or whether we go a couple other options, which we're going to talk about now. The idea is, if your classroom is only this big, it's only going to be this effective. So we need to think outside that classroom, no matter if we're traditional or whether we're flipped. So now let's think about how we're going to use in-class time and out-of-class time, because remember, flip is not about tech. Flip is about the group space where we're all together, and about the independent space outside that box where the student deals with the information, deals with the skills on their own. So with all that in mind, let's talk. So let's see here. First thing is, we could go full-on Flip 101, traditional flip, and that is students watch homework at home outside. Okay, they come to class having watched the videos, and now in the class space, they do homework. Not the most effective, but it can be effective, and it can be a plan for a day or two within a larger style of flip, because sometimes that is a good plan. And that can even be a good plan kind of long term, and arguably it could be a better plan than the traditional method. But if all we're doing is sitting next to one another, doing homework problems, and the teacher sits at their desk, I argue that's even worse than a traditional classroom. So let's at least make Flip 101 useful and productive. So Flip 101, we're going to take that video, we're going to take that content, we're going to take that reading, we're going to take that information from that resource, and they're going to do that outside of class. Then they come to class. Now, even if we're doing Flip 101, highly recommend that they come and bring something to the class prepared, because now not only are they doing something, they're interacting, or they're viewing something outside of class, whether it's through reading or digital, whatever, but now they're also interacting with it in some way. Create a question regarding the material, create an example of your own, practice an example that I give you, do a guided worksheet thing, anything. Bring it to class. So they have to come not just mentally prepared, but also some level of physically prepared. That's going to at least up the ante on Flip 101. Then once you come to class, now you have something to start with. So if you have something to start with, now that's a jumping off point. So even if they're doing homework in class, say, okay, well, here's the one you did at home. Let's talk about it for just a few minutes, and then here's more work to do in class. Better. Still don't love it, but better. Okay, so that's kind of Flip 101. Now let's move on kind of to a Flip 102. Let's now have those students bring that same information to class, but now maybe they have a group project that they work on with it. So that's the start of some group component that they're going to put together in class, and then maybe we talk about that group component in the group space. Now we're getting better. So they're still doing the practice component in class, and they're still doing mastery level work in class, but now it's at least together. At least it belongs in a group space because it requires a group to do it. One of my common things that I really like to do is I have the components that are interactive on the outside. They come to class, and now we go to the boards all the way around the classroom, and the students go through those things, and they present their work to the class, or they present their work on the board, and I can clearly see and do quick formative assessment, because the job of being in the group space means we're there with the quote-unquote expert or whatever, so that I can at least diagnose where we at on this. Okay, now at that point, it's a good idea to head off and to do a little bit more practice. You say, okay, now that you've done this practice at this level, here's a practice at this level. Let's either work independently or work in pairs or work in groups, okay, to attempt this. And then we're going to come back together in that group space, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to expand on that. We're going to tease information out of that. And preferably it's not teacher-led, although it can be. Preferably you have some students doing the lead. Well, this is what I got. Here's how I would do it, etc. Hey, Bill, what did you get? What did you and Sally? What did you come up with on that? And over here, Heather and Margot, did you come up with something different, or did you come up with the same? Do you have a thought on this? And now we have comparison, contrast, and maybe even eventually in that group time, we're doing creation. Okay, now that we've done this, when you've done this, now can you make up a situation or come up with something where this would be put to use? That's kind of the next piece of the puzzle. All this might still be considered kind of Flip 101, because you're really just doing stuff outside the classroom and doing the practice inside the classroom. That's okay. That's good stuff. But it's still kind of a Flip 101, Flip 102 kind of thing. It's not full-on flip learning at this point, but you're starting to get close. So with that, that's kind of what we're talking about how you would use this in class with a Flip 101. Next one, we're going to talk a little bit about in-flip.